Hey everyone, and welcome to another stream. Thank you so much for joining, and we are going to continue working the on the PulseChecker application. So we did migrate some of the data last time. We are now going to start looking into when we are responding to the pulses. How do we maintain that in the new format? And then we're gonna also look into the real time updates that also come. So I hope that today we will be able to make significant progress, so we cover the whole migration in one or two maximum more streams, but then we'll take it from there. So yeah, let's hope for the best for today, and then we're gonna take it from there. But let me know, how has your weekend been so far, and have you done anything interesting this weekend? Let's also get started right off the bat. So I'm also gonna look into focus dodo, and maybe we can sort of focus and work on the same time. When I'll go in the focus mode, just so you know, I'm going to be mostly focusing on actually getting things done, but I'll answer your questions on and off. But when we'll go to the break, then we can talk more in that case. Okay, but instead of 5 minutes break, we'll probably take 10 minutes break. Okay, cool, awesome. So I think we can get started, and you can, as you can see right there, at the very corner, we also have the focus watch there as well. So this is a product that I built. I use it myself at the moment. I think some other people are using it as well. I'm not really sure. Maybe there are a few people who are using it, but essentially this helps with productivity and helps you keep the focus. Angular Cookbook has been finished. Right now we are working on essentially um, so finishing, or we can say rather, we had a ticket for this. Let's see if I have the ticket still. See individual feedback, as I said, that's not the one. Okay, so creating question and responses instead, for the sessions on creating, or we can say creating questions when the session is created. When the session is created, and then we can also say another one, creating responses on the session feedback form. So these are the two tickets that we are going to work today. So let's convert that into an issue, this one into an issue as well. So right now what happens is that we are still creating the old way of creating the questionnaire, but we are going to switch to the new way of doing it. And if you have any questions in the meantime, type in the chat. So for those of you who don't know, this is PulseChecker. This is what I'm building at the moment, and this will help getting feedback in real time from your audience when you're giving a workshop or you're giving a talk, and then you can get real time feedback without them having to log in, so they can anonymously give feedback, and then you can basically see that feedback in your dashboard. And when you go to a particular sessions dashboard, you can actually see all the responses as such. So we're going to do one thing, we're going to fix this to be full width as well, but then instantly we'll go towards when we actually create a particular session like this one. Here we are right now saying rating fields. We need to rather say the type of question and then basically creating those questions. Now what I'm thinking is, so far we in the future what we want to do is to be able to create different kinds of questions, but right now I just want to migrate. So I'm going to hard code some stuff. For example, this will still create one single kind of question, but you will still see the process both in Angular, which is going to be the front end, and NestJS, which is the back end. And you might also see some Prisma / Postgres stuff as well, but we'll look into it when the time comes. Okay, so let's first, as we said, look into the session itself. So here I want to make this one full width. So let's go to our, not the Docker. In here we should have a session.component, inside dashboard. So, and that's not the one. So dashboard, session component, and this one has to be just grid calls one. And I think we can keep it like that. So we just have this one, and right now we're not really looking into even having multiple grids at the moment, so I'll just keep it even without all of this. So here we have questions, which is a div. We're going to change that to a section instead. By the way, you'll see that this is also now full width, so that's good. Change this to a section, not action but section, and let's also change this guy to a section as well. So I'm gonna quickly do this, and there we go. So now we have essentially two sections. One section is for questions and the other section is for the reactions. Let's also put a margin because this is too close. Let's say this section gets to have a margin top of 4. We should give it a about 16 pixels in the gap, so it's consistent with the other ones, because I always use like gap 4, so we are still using the same thing. Alrighty, so now that we have this, I think we're good. Let's move towards I also remembered one more ticket, so I'm gonna add that as well. Fresh. This one also should have another ticket that says a real or updating session view in real time as responses are coming. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly put that one right there, convert that into an issue, put that inside there, and there we go. Okay, good. So now let's go to the creation part. So when we go to the creation, this is the session create component, or we could also call it create session component. I don't know why we went for session create while we have edit session. I don't know. Maybe you should call it create session component. So let's say npx nxg component. We'll say we are going to call this create session. The directory of this is gonna be apps pc web source app dashboard and then create session. So let's create this quickly. And we should also have had this started, so now we can look at that as well. Okay, so this is going to be an Angular component, and we are going to use the as provided. We should have a new component here. Okay, so now we have create session. So let's copy paste all of it from here to there. So this is the template, this is the CSS, and then this should be the component. So the component goes like this. I think we just need to replace the create session component with session create component. And now that I think about it, let's just move this imports array and leave everything else. So here, and then you have this guy, so just update the imports, remove the top, cut this guy, and then let's quickly add this right here. Okay, cool, no errors. Cool. Save the CSS, save the HTML, and I think we just need to replace within the dashboard route where we have sessions/create. We're gonna, instead of session create, we are going to import create-session. Let's also use that here, session.component, and here create session component. Okay, so this is good. Now if we try to go to create session, this should still work. Cool. And let's delete the session create component. So if I refresh now, if it still works, then that means this is working. So good. Shahjahan Sarfaraz keh rahe hain, Assalamu alaikum, how's life going? Alhamdulillah, it's good. How about you? What have you been up to? Okay, so in the create session component, when we have, I think the only thing that we need to change is, I mean, we send everything as it was before. For example, the rating, the max value, all of that goes still the same. I'm thinking if we should be sending the right data from the UI, or we should have something done in the backend. So when we submit, we take the name and the fields from the form value. Then we look at the ratings, and then which is essentially the components or all the questions related to this. But then we have just label as max value. I think we're good. The only thing that we need to then change is just the backend. Okay, this is easier than what I thought. So let's quickly do that. So now, if I go to, give me 1 second, I'm gonna also disable the chat commands as well. Okay, so then I can just go to my backend sessions, and let's go to controller. So when we create, we are calling this function, which is creating the session, and this is what we are trying to do. So we create a default project if it doesn't exist, but that's fine. Then we create it just like this. So the session is created. But then we are also creating the ratings. So instead of creating the ratings, we are supposed to create questions. So far what we'll do is we are going to create a question of ratings and then the pace, if that makes sense. So what we'll do is we are still going to do exactly the same thing, because what I'm trying to do, as I mentioned before, not to really migrate away from the current code, but just modifying it enough so I can scale it later on. So right now what I'll do is, instead of creating a session rating, let's create a question of type rating. So here I'm going to say const ratings equals await. Here we can just say old ratings, and we can say this dot prisma dot question dot create many. So we are creating a lot of questions, all of type rating. So here the data is going to be create session DDO dot ratings dot map, and then we get a rating. So essentially it looks like it's going to be almost the same thing, but we'll have some differences. Shahjahan Sarfar says, I have exam in the morning and I haven't started studying yet. Good, awesome. This is I think this is one of the best things that you can do. So been there, done that. All the best. Inshallah it will be good. Okay, I think this is it. We don't really need a lot of we are missing something. What is it that we are missing? I think we're missing the configuration. No. So okay, label string max value number session ID. So what are we missing? Labels max value session ID is missing the following properties from the type. The type. Okay. Yeah, of course. The type here is going to be question type dot rating. And do you also need configuration? I think yes. Oh, so the max value. Why do we have a max value here? I think this max value doesn't belong here. This should go inside here. But I think we should be more type safe actually. You know how we can do it better? We can say that what we are creating is a partial of a rating question. So we have correct types. So we can say const question to create, and which is going to be a partial of question rating. Okay, and then we can give this the object, if that makes sense, and then we can return the question to create. So why does this cry now? Now we have better type. If you look at this, so the max value is not assignable to type string, and we are also I think missing, I think it's called not max value but max, well, exactly. So this is better types now. Label is also missing, so the label also goes inside configuration as far as I remember. No, the I think label still goes inside here. So label is optional in type partial but required in type question create many input. So what is it that we are missing? So question rating. Okay. hmm hmm and this label is still gonna be there. Let's see. So now the data is supposed to have all of these things, but does it, for example, if I remove this, does it justify it? It does. Why does this justify it? That doesn't make sense. So create many should contain the type accordingly, which is interesting. And if we go this route, then it cries. It cries because okay, we are talking about disabled, required. If you look at question rating, it contains all the things, including the thing in question, which is a label, right? Okay. Config exclusions, we do use, okay, question with config payload. So then we can use rather with question with config payload, if that makes sense. And now it's optional in the partial, and you don't really need the partial, you need this guy. I think this is what we should be using. So config question with config payload is what we should be using, because then it excludes everything and just includes what is mandatory, which is good. Okay, so then we don't this guy, and then we've got ratings that we also create, and I think we are good. Shahjan is asking, by the way, I have a question. How do we select database for your project? Obviously that vary from project to project, but in general, relational, DB, and non-relational. If your document has a lot of different sort of, or if one collection can have many different sort of options, but you still want to be able to filter on those pretty nicely, then you should be using a document database. So you don't have things that have a lot of relations with each. I mean, even document databases can have relation as well. If your read is more, if you're writing a lot to the database versus reading a lot of database, then also you need to see between both of them. If your document changes the schema quite a lot within the same collection or within the same table, then you should be looking into document database. But if you just want to have a lot of relations, then relational database is much better in that case. If you argue, more or less all of them can be sort of interrupt into each other, so you can swap and still it will work. But then the performance comes into play, like which has more performance in certain scenario. So it's really hard to say without having the domain knowledge. So the domain knowledge is going to come into play. Ali says, sir, how can we learn the best practice in web development? By practicing and coding. When you code, you get into problems. When you get into problems, you search on the internet. When you find those solutions, you learn how to do things. And also by contributing to other projects as well, like open source projects, where already there are seniors who are providing who are coding, so you can look into their code as well. So look into other people's code and keep coding yourself. That is the main thing. Okay, so if you've got ratings, then we are creating those questions. In this case, this is good. I think this is good enough. I'm going to remove the question rating from this. So now whenever we are creating a particular session, we should be able to see the questions along with that session. So we are also going to look into our databases as well. So right now we do have these. That's fine. Okay, and we can also say order by, and then we can order by created at, and what is the query of now I've forgotten all of it. So let's see. SQL order by ascending. So here we get the order by price descending. Okay, so that's, and here we can, or can I just say created at and let's say DASC. Of course that needs to be in the quotations, which I did previously. Okay, so this one adds the last one, so from public question, and this is the paste question of signals that I created. Okay, description required. Okay, then we are good. So let's create one more, but I think we not only need, oh, I just remembered, we not only need to create the ratings, but we also need to create one question for comment and one question for pace as well. So the sequence we'll have for these, if you look at the current order, so we got pace as the first one, and then we've got comment as the first one, pace as the second one, and then we have the rest of them, right? I'm thinking, and is this the same for every one of them? Meetup, comment, pace. Okay, so let's do comment and pace at the moment. Comment, pace. Okay, so let's create those. So we can say const question equals, or we can say question pace await this dot prisma dot question dot create. I mean, we could also create it in this rating as well, to be honest, but these are ratings, so I would have to change the whole code, so I'm not going to do that. So create, and in here let's provide the data. The data is going to be of type this, so we can say type. The first one, let's create a question one in this case, so we can say something like, because we want to have consistency throughout, so we'll start with question type dot comment, and then we can also have the label, which is going to be comment. So I'm hard coding it, but this is how we'll do it. So session ID is going to be session.id, and then we have configuration of I think empty. I'm gonna replicate what I have exactly in the scripts. So migrate feedback has, you know what, I could actually export these files and actually use that in the script as well, to be honest, because I'm using that in the script as well, which feels a bit weird, but we could do that. What does this require? Session, comment question, and paste question. Okay. Create responses for paste and comment. Now that's going to be a problem because then we need a comment question, a paste question, and then responses as well. Maybe we can export these somewhere in sort of a library or something. Right now we have just components, interfaces, pipes, utils, but then the library becomes dependent on Prisma, although if it's a UI. Okay, I'm gonna just duplicate code. So let's see, because this script is supposed to be deleted later on since we don't want to use it all the time. So session service. Wait a second. Create a paste question is basically this. Do we have this anywhere else that we have created? So too slow. Migrate feedback is the only place where we have this. Too slow, good, too fast. Okay. So then the first thing that we probably should have is constants that we can take out from that file. So let's move this guy into the constants. So here, okay, let's do that. So we're gonna go to our PC UI, and here we can also say constants, chart colors, index. So here we can create a new constant. I do also want to see the script alongside as well. So here we do have options that are the default options, and for the comment we have, okay, so in this case let's just say paste colors.ts, and here we can say export or const paste colors equal, or we can also capitalize it. I think we do capitalize the other one. No. Okay, so here paste colors is going to be this, and then we can also, am I exporting default? No. So we can say export const paste colors. So having said that, we can also then go into the index and do also paste colors, and then in our migrate feedback we can actually import this here. So something like paste colors can come right here, which is perfect, but then I can also use them right here as well. So configurations, options, and then paste colors, and let's copy this guy. So then we have session ID type, whoopsie doopsie, this is question, this is not signals. So this one is supposed to have an empty configuration. Then we should also have a question of question, or here we should have question comment, question paste, await this dot prisma, we prisma question dot create, and in here we can use all of this inside the data, and this can import PC UI paste colors. Okay, so now that we have this created with the session ID, question paste created with this, with the colors, then the ratings created, I think we're pretty good. So we do return back once we have created the session. I think we should have returned questions containing question comment, question comment, question paste, and then ratings. right? Have I done something weird? No. Okay, let's actually bring this guy a bit up. So let's do it let ratings, and then you can do ratings equals uh, it should be of type question array. What length pop? But doesn't, okay, what do you return from here? Prisma or promise of what? Hmm, interesting. Okay, the question is this one. Okay, type of question paste. Isn't it? And the ratings can then be that, but then now it's hmm. So we return back a session, and that should also define. Okay, it doesn't say what we are going to return back, but that's good. So batch payload is missing the following properties from get result. But ratings, are we're saying that this is supposed to be an array of the things that we talked about, but it doesn't. What does the create menu return? Promise batch. Oh, okay, batch payload, which has the count numbers only. Ah, okay. So then, okay, then we don't know. So then the ratings should not even be there. Okay, then we can do something like um ratings. Okay, let's revert this because I also want to change one more thing. So this should then be just ratings, and this is a batch payload which essentially just contains the count of ratings created, ratings, otherwise I just send it back. So session, and then we can do a questions, question comment constant piece. Let's do it like this, or rating questions created. Okay, so I think we can get this now. Let's take a break of 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, we can ask them now. Otherwise, I'll just go and have a break. I need to have either a maybe a bigger stream track or organize my stream track better. So any questions that I can answer? Do you learn anything from these streams, or do you enjoy these? Because after I'm done with the migration, I think I'm going to switch to some React content, or maybe one of the things that I'm planning to do is to um to create a site, a Next.js based site that then I can use for courses. So having something like paid courses there for very cheap, but we'll see. Adis says, is the repo you're working on public? No, this one is not public. This is something that I plan on earning money from. So this one is not public at the moment. But you can find other complex projects. For example, Focus Doro. No, I think Focus Doro is not public as well, but you can find, whoops, you can find the repository for appflashback.com, which is also a full stack game that allows multiple people to join the lobby, and then it's a memory based game, and whoever wins, you finally get the scorecard as well that you can share with others. So if you want to look at the repository of this one, which is also built with the same technology, Angular and NestJS, you can look into Flashback. So here is the repository. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, I did remove that logo from there, of course. I think that is probably just the design file, maybe. Because this one looks a bit different. We have this one on the left, this one on the right. Interesting. But yeah, that's what we are talking about. I think you should also be able to find more things, but I think I should probably add that on the site where the public projects are, so you don't have to go through all the GitHub repositories on my GitHub. You can just find the ones that you like. Ali says, thank you, Lord. I will check. I'm interested in NestJS since I'm an Angular dev. Awesome. Cool. There's also another repository that you can learn from a lot if you just want to, just want to look into Angular. Then you can look into the Angular Packed Angular Cookbook second edition. So just if you just look at the projects of this repo, you're gonna learn a lot. But if you can get the book, then that's even better. So you learn how those were implemented as well. One of the things that I want to do is I want to change some code in almost, or not almost, but actually in all the projects. So I'm going to be writing some sort of Angular schematics or some sort of automated script that I can run, and that it changes the header inside all the applications inside an NX mono repository. But do look into this as well. And if you want, you can also grab the second edition. I'm not sure if I brought it here. Maybe I can show it to you. Avesta says, just joined. What's the break widget you're using? It's my own app that I've built. It's called the Focus Doro app. I'm going to show you in just a minute. So this is the Angular Cookbook, if you have not seen already. And yeah, it's nice. I've now got two of those. Let's also do a comparison between those. And why don't I have a Pomodoro clock here? Let's also add that here as well. Ooh, what happened to this guy? If I go back, oh, just enabling and disabling it in here causes this to reset. That's crazy. Let's try to see if I can fix that. Yeah, I can. Okay, so let's put it here maybe. And now you're looking at fixing things in production. So this is the first one, the Angular Cookbook. And it had almost 618 pages. But I think if you count like the prefix, the table of contents, I think then it ends up being a lot more. And this one is the second one. So if you see both of them together, go away. which one do you like more when it comes to just the design of the cover? Can I get a 1 or 2 in the chat? This is the no, this is the one, the first one, and this is the second edition. Which one do you think it's more cool? And I think the light is causing the issue. Ross says 1. So this is the one that you like the cover more. What about the other one? Does anyone think the second one looks cooler? Or does everyone think that the one? Okay, so nobody says 2. Interesting. This is going against the crowd and saying 2. Okay, humbly opinion. All right, I'm gonna show the one again. So this is 1. This is how it looked on the back. So you can also see things you will learn, and it's a bit of shiny. I'm going to show you the second one again. This is 2. It has that sort of a matte finish. I think, or I know that the font is a bit different as well. So this looks, I don't know, it looks nicer to me. And then this one is the back side. So it's pretty it's pretty decent. It's not too many colors and not shiny in this case. But I think when I look into the content of it, I actually like the second one much more. So like screenshots that you have inside, and also the diagrams that I have. I really liked one diagram that I'm gonna show you. I think it was in the performance chapter. And trust me, I go to my book probably more than others. Like, okay, how do you really implement animations? Okay, that's the chapter. And yeah, this one. So change, detaching the change detector from components. So this is one of the techniques used in the Angular world when you want to have your components perform better if you don't really want change detection in those. So how do you really do that? And once you follow the entire recipe, then you get to the solution. I also really liked this one, and it's a shame that, for example, if you look at this one, no, not that one, this one right here. If you look at this closely, it's like it shows you something, but the black and white doesn't do any justice whatsoever to the actual outcome. Do you want to see that clock? I can show you like what the app actually looks when it's colors, of course. So I can show you that. Shahjahan says new one looks much more cooler. I don't know why, but it gives more premium feeling. Exactly, yes. I thought it was. I don't know. It's very tough because you have the shiny one that also sort of looks like premium, but the matte is, I don't know. It has something to it. Abhay says love the focus widget. Any plans of making it public? The code is not public, but the app is public, so you can actually look into the app. You can use the app today. If you go to focusdoro.app, you can essentially just use it out of the box. So this is right now free to use, and you can also share this with others. So everyone who's watching this, or if you share the link, everyone on the link will be in sync with your clock. In that case, for example, if you look at that clock right there, if I change to break, you'll see that the widget also changes to break. If I go to focus, that widget also goes to focus, and the widget is merely just another page in the application, but just the app, and there's no background and nothing, so I can actually use it in my stream as well. And the software that I use for streaming allows me to have these widgets. For example, this widget for the camera, then above you see the chat overlay, and these are called overlays, and then you have these bottom overlays as well, and then the widget as well. So I can use a browser source, so to say. So I'll show you quickly the clock thingy that we just saw. What was it called? I think it's called something async. So we go to our chapter, yeah, ng run outside Angular. That's the one. So we go to cd final npx nx serve, or we can actually now use just nx serve ng run outside Angular port, I don't know, 4100. Wait, asking again, how do you implement an app where there are a lot of data entry, and if a user is offline then he should be able to use the app, and when the internet connects then the data upload back up? Can it be both desktop and web? I know that Firebase supports that. So Firebase supports online, or online and offline both, so you don't have to implement it yourself. If you wanted to implement it yourself, then you would have to keep looking into the connectivity. I think you have something called a web API, network connection web API. Network information. So here you have, but this is essentially an still you can find Bluetooth, cellular, Wi-Fi Max, so other things like this. So you can actually look into these, but not supported on a lot of browsers. So you can look into if the internet is working or not. You can also try to look into, all right, now I'm going to try to call my backend. If I'm not able to connect to the backend and I'm getting, I think you get a status 0 when there's no connectivity. So you can look into it and then it would say, okay, you're not connected. So you can still keep the information or the data in either local storage, which I think has a limit of 5 megabytes, but you can also look into storing your information in something called indexed database. So you can also look into this as well. This allows you to have your data. For example, these are the keys, and then you have some data right here. So you can store data here. So keep your data in your storage or in your browser storage, and then once you get the connectivity, so for example, as soon as you go offline, you need to now keep making a request after every few seconds to your backend. When you make those requests, you're going to be like, okay, I still got 0 as status, that means I'm offline, so okay, I'll try again in a few seconds. But when you try to make the call and you get the response, that means now you're connected to the internet. Now you take that data from your local storage and send it to the API. The backend and the front end both have to support that process, because if you just implement it in the front end, obviously it would not work. So this requires significant data, not data, significant architecture and engineering to actually make this happen. But you can also use services like, I think, Couchbase, or you also have I don't think it's in Postgres, but Firebase, and then you essentially can find it. Adi says, I just found out that you live in Stockholm. I was very glad to see that information because I live there myself. Aha, nice. I was wondering, are there any Angular community meetings in Stockholm that I could attend? I actually tried to find one, but I could not. I also met the person who was running NG Stockholm. He works, at least he worked at Google, but that was like 2 or 3 years ago when I met that person, and that has been shut down. So I think the only community that I actually could find was Women Tech Makers Stockholm, and also GDG Cloud Stockholm. So if you look into those, it still is not Angular, but it's the closest to Angular being a Google driven community. So not yet, but if you want to connect, just send me a message on LinkedIn. You'll find me by my name, Mohammad Ahsan Ayaz. I can also share the link with you. But then, yeah, if I find something, then I can also let you know. But I haven't found exceptional communities so far. But then the reality is also that I've on and off looked into those. I've never actively looked for a lot of communities as well. I do know there's community called Coding for Immigrants as well that you can search, and I think you should be able to find the Discord link as well. Shahjahan says, seems like a lot of work. Exactly, that's why Firebase provides it out of the box for you and handles all of that work that we talked about in itself. Okay, did we open our app or not? We did, right? So this was the one I was about to show you. So this, compared to what you saw in the book, don't do justice. As I said, like in the book it was like very simple, but when you see the app actually, then you're like, okay, that looks nicer. And now I've missed it, so I'm not gonna bother find it. But yeah, it's a nice one. Let's put artist name here. Greeting, artist. Hope you're enjoying this. And this is now the final project, in which you'll also probably see a. Did I remove all the console logs? I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. In the final version, I did. So one of the things that I was asking, or I was mentioning that I would do, is you see this logo. This was implemented when Angular did not really change their logo. Now they have. So I will have to write a script or an Angular schematic to go into all my projects, which is 80 projects or 80 plus projects multiplied by 2. So one for start and one for end or final one. And then I have to replace in all of those. So I'm hoping I'm going to do it live with the help of our dear friend ChatGPT a bit as well, because there are not so great tutorials out there when it comes to Angular schematics or building your own, or a lot of them are really basic. So unless you're looking into some code or have done it yourself, it doesn't make sense really easily. So I'm going to look at that. Info files by Ahmed says, your opinion about Vue.js. I think Vue.js is pretty nice. I'm going to change the battery of the camera, by the way. It's very fast to learn as well, but I haven't done it myself. I think it's pretty close to React, but I haven't used it myself, so I don't have any strong opinion that are against or in favor of Vue.js, if that makes sense. Coolio, I think we have taken enough break. I'm gonna stand up now so we can code and my back doesn't hurt. There we go. A bit down. Thank you. Could you explain the difference between AngularJS and Angular? Ross is asking. Good question. AngularJS is Angular 1.x. So I think it is up to Angular 1.6 or something. And AngularJS was the name in the beginning. But then since Angular 2.0, it has been renamed to Angular. So anything that is 1.x, you can call it AngularJS. Anything that is from 2 to today we have 17 is just Angular. And that is because they basically rewrote the whole engine, or the Vue engine, and basically everything was scrapped and was started from scratch again based on TypeScript and a lot of things, including dependency injection. I mean, dependency injection was still there in Angular as well, but a lot of things basically changed as well. Basically the Vue engine was the biggest change. So yeah, that's the difference. Whenever you hear about Angular, we're talking about Angular 2 plus, and most generally we are talking about the recent Angular, which is 17. Shahjahan says Vue.js is great, can't say much, it's just like awesome. Yeah, I agree. A lot of frameworks today are just keeping up to date with everything, and that is awesome. All right, now that we have basically written it, let's add that. So let's add a session called Ross's question. Here we can say rate, I don't know, AngularJS. We're gonna have a 5 stars to rate. Add field, rate Angular, and then we're gonna create a session. Now, if we look at our database right now, we see that the latest one is this paste question. And we can also look into the sessions as well. So let's see the sessions. Let's select the session here. We can also do order by, and here we can say created at and DESC. So when we run this, the latest session that we have basically created is the Rapid API host, and you see that within the app as well. Now, once we have created this one, let's also make a network call here to see if we get back the data back. So create session, goes there, fails, error creating session. Obviously, now we don't know what failed. So we sent this, and let's have a look at the code, especially the backend. So here we failed this. So we say PCUI has no exported member page colors. Okay, but what happened in the okay, but then did we really create anything at all? If I look into, if I query this again, do I still get back a Rapid API? Okay, so nothing was created. Good. So we have an error in our backend, which is inside the session service. I don't know why doesn't it say it here, to be honest. I don't know why. Should I restart the TypeScript server? I don't know. It should have said right here that this is not exported from PCUI. But it does not. Anyways, so we are exporting this now. Everything should look good. Now this one says it's still browser application, blah blah blah. This is service page colors, which is going here, and then we have export from page colors. I think this should be just fine. No, this one is still causes errors. Why does this cause error? Annex require of ES module is not supported. Import blah blah blah. I think there's a problem. Let's stop the server and restart it. Let's see. Okay, so now we have a problem. Okay, so let's say npx nx reset. I think me just running the other nx mono repository crashed this one, which is absurd. Let's see. I hope this one works now. No, this is still cries. Why does this cry? NestJS executor node with require overrides, loader.apply. I don't understand. Why does this crash? Is this a warning? Okay, let's see if this works. So I'm gonna go to PulseChecker, go to here. No, this fails. What happened? Did we do something that should break everything? Let's see. So here we're importing paste colors, which has a label, value, and color inside our other one. I think because this is because we are not let's have a look at this. So this one, the PCBE, if I go to project.json, no. If I go to this one, no. Build target, PCUI. Okay, let's have a look. So this one, PC UI components, interfaces. We can also add one more here, and we can call this constants, and then constants index.js. But what I don't understand is my backend. Why does my backend cry? So let's have a look. So in this one, we have PCBE session service. So we have added question with payload and then paste colors. Then we have also got in. There's nothing else that we are using. I mean, this is just the only one. The libpcui src. I think this is the only one that could crash it. But to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. If I use this guy, just copy pasted in migration feedback. So instead of doing this, if I go ahead and just add this myself, it just compiled successfully. But what did it really compile? And session service, if I just save this, no, this is still fails. Why does it fail? It's weird. Annex processes exited code 1, waiting for changes to restart. Okay, if I remove this guy and if I use this right here, now it works. So I mean, suspectedly it was okay, but I think the problem is that I'm probably using, but I'm still using PCUI right here. That doesn't make sense. This is also coming from the same library as paste colors. If I look at here, we are exporting from libconstant, right? This is export anything from paste colors, which is this. So I don't really know then why. And now if I go here, refresh, I can get all the data. Well, why does this not work then? Paste colors, and then if I import this from PCUI constants, and then here I should be able to just say paste color. And if I save this now, so here now it doesn't like it. Interesting. So my main TS config base JSON has the paths PCUI, PCUI components, and all of these, right? If I go to PC web, do I have that inside here as well? So this one extends the TS config JSON, which is here. But then it extends the base JSON. That's how PC web can import this. But if we look at PCBE, this also extends the base JSON. So this should be able to get the PCUI constants, but it does not. That's weird. That's weird, literally. So PCUI TS config. This should understand what PCUI constants basically means. Okay, anyways, then we can leave it. If that is the case, then that is the case. So we can say this guy is gonna have basically the same thing as the migrate feedback. So let's have options right here in the session service. And Now this is good. So let's go to not reports but create. Here we can say Ross's question. Here we can say Angular JS. Here we can say Angular, and let's create a session. So the session was created. As you can see, we also got the payload back. So in here we got the name, Ross's question, the ratings, and everything. Oh, this was the request, sorry. This is what we got back. Rating question created, count 2. So we created 2 different questions. We also got the question that we created for pace and comment. So comment and signals, which is pace. So now if we go to our database and we try to look into sessions, this was the latest one, Rapid API host. If I do a query again, now I see Rapid API host as down here, and then Ross's question as that one. And now we have Ross's question right here as well. So if I open this, I still see comments, 0 responses of pace, but we also see Angular and Angular JS. Yay! Now we can look into the, what do you call it, the responses. So when we are submitting the responses, we should also be creating responses instead of the what we do now. So let's look into that. So let's say we got, I think we should also have a link, joining link right here as well. So that would make much more sense. But anyways, so right now we have session, Ross's question. Ooh, but look at this. We don't really get that. We only get the pace and comments, and this is also because we don't really have that. Okay. So then in the backlog, we are working on creating question when the session is created. I think this one is done. So let's first focus on this and finalize this one. So session service, question type. I think we can also combine those because we have two of those from the PC UI, if I remember correctly. No, this one. Okay, that's fine. Dashboard routes, blah, blah, blah. So add this guy, session service, add dashboard routes, add create session component, easy peasy, CSS. Let's go. Let's go. This one also did not have any important things. Then we got this guy. Let's go. Add, and then the index.ts just added paste colors, and then we added it here. Okay, let's do a quick commit. So we can say this one is done. I'm now thinking that I should probably branch out and then branch in to merge it with the migrate feedback. I'm not really sure if that's going to make a difference, but then that would at least have these close with the yeah, maybe we can do it properly. So let's do it like this. So if I do create a branch for this link or a pull request, search for repository, create a branch from PulseChecker, but it doesn't let, oh, this is the one. So main source, migrate feedback to fields, and then I can say creating a question when the session is created. Let's copy this one. By the way, you can do this as well, just creating directly from Git. This is very, very helpful. So creating a branch from PulseChecker from this branch, migrating from this branch, and then we can add it here. And now I can quickly check this out. So I can say git add dot git stash, and then I can run the commands that we have, and then git stash pop, git add, git commit, and now I can say feed, create session, create, go away, questions. Oh, you don't really see that. Give me 1 second. Git commit create, let's say feature, create session, create questions when creating session. Okay, so this one is done. I can just push it. So I've created a branch from a branch, and now I'm gonna merge this branch to the other branch. So let's create a pull request, and this is gonna be created against not main, but we are going to create it against the feedback fields from which we derived it. Now you can see it says able to merge as well. So create a pull request with all these changes, and I can obviously double check these or have it reviewed from someone if I was working with someone. But I can create a pull request, and then I can also merge the request. So this is the same as doing good job when you create your own pull request and then merge it as well. Okay, so there we go. Pull request merge and close. We can delete the branch. And now I can move to the actual branch again. So kid checkout. And that should have also closed this one. So this one can be said closed by, and then this one. So closed by this, and this should now be shown here as well. So this should, yeah, you can see this is now done automatically. Creating question is now right here when the session is created. So this is like the proper flow of having a ticket and then moving it alongside as well. Okay, so now that we have creating responses on session feedback form, this is the one that I want to start working on. So I'm going to move it to progress. Then I'm going to create a branch for this one. So this one, let's quickly open that in a new tab. So I'm going to go and say create a branch for this pull request. I'm going to select the branch I need to merge out from. So I need to merge out from migrate feedback to fields. Let's first actually check this out as well. So I can say git branch just to make sure I have the latest one. Migrate feedback to fields. Git checkout. We check out this, do a good pull because my local one does not have the latest changes. So I'm going to pull it. Now I have the latest changes that I just merged. Now I can branch off from this one to this one, creating responses on the session feedback form, and create a branch, copy this guy, paste it right here. And now I have one new branch to work on. Everything else should still be fine as far as I think. Yeah. And now we can look into giving the feedback. So right now the first problem is we are not really showing the questions that we need to show. So here also we need to, and the session component, we need to start using the new information. So apps, PC webs, source app, session component, which is this one, should start using the actual response cards. So right now what we have is, don't we use this? Let's see, subscribe. Are we using take while anywhere? No. So let's see, subscribe. Are these only for calls? Yeah, we're not really using those. I thought I was using, okay, because we are using the destroy ref here. Okay. But I forgot to remove that. That sucks. Yeah, forgot to remove it. So then let's remove this one, and this one. Okay, so for the session, what happened? Debounce time filter, okay. So for the session itself, this guy, we have an HTML which has a header which says session Gauss's session, which says it right here, session name. Now we need to change this to the feedback form. So I'm going to go to feedback form, and this is where we change stuff. So if we look at the app itself, I'm hoping that we're getting the right data. So if I refresh, this is the session. No, this is not the session. This is the session. This only contains rating configs, and it does not. What is this guy? I have no clue. What is this? Ah, okay. And then we have feedback that's coming as well. So first of all, let's get the question. Yeah, first of all, let's get the question. So right now, what we do is when we, let's keep this one open and this one open as well. So I'm assuming when we start ng on init, we say that we do have the ID, then we get attendee from storage, blah, blah, blah. Then we get the attendee from server. Not interested in this as well at the moment. Where is my session? This is the session. So get it in a session by pin. When we get session by pin, we return back session with ratings. And session with ratings should contain rating config and feedback. Okay. This should contain this should also contain questions. Okay. So the questions should be there. But if I look at the response, we don't have questions. We just have rating configs. So we need to have questions as well. So let's go to our backend and fix that, because the backend should respond with questions. So if I go to PCBE, source, app, session, controller, and we're using the by pin. So find by pin should include questions. And I think we could also include answers as well, but let's not do it. Let's just say return questions as well. So far you see it doesn't have questions, but once we refresh this, we should have questions as well. So if we refresh, now you can see I got questions as well. So it's with Prisma, it's that easy to just add more things, and it runs the SQL queries behind the scenes, so I don't have to worry about that. So now I've got in 4 questions. The first one is a comment, then we have pace, then we have configuration, and then we have this, right? So now let's add those things in there. So how do we go about that? That's the big question. Okay, so let's start with the front end. So I'm gonna go close saved. So the front end, the session component, what do we render? Because we have 4 questions. So right now we need to start rendering those. So we have pulse meter, feedback form, and those are the two that we have. So let's actually, here we say if session else loader. So we can say if session, just going to the new control flow, and else we can say, we can just render the loader, which is right here. Let's copy this guy to here. By the way, I also remember that there was one, there was a VS Code action that was used for control flow. I think Enea Angular control flow VS Code. Yeah, this is the one. A short task for VS Code. Where's the link? How do I get this thingy? Why am I having the weird little ads? Okay, let's have a look at this. So this one, terminal, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I can just run the control flow thingy right away as well. Okay, so this is the one, the tasks.json. Let's have a look. So Run task run. Okay, so this is the one, and this is the one as well. So this is npx nxg angular control flow path relative file format and interactive. Okay, let's try that. So we go to tasks.json, manage automatic tasks. No, is it the one? No. Tasks, run task, show all tasks. Okay, tasks, configure a task, create a task JSON file from template. Yeah, maybe we can do that. Okay, so this is the tasks. So here we can start a new one. This one says type shell, then you had a label Angular, migrate to new Angular control flow. By the way, I like the font here. I mean, I don't like it more than the one that I have, but I still like it. Like the F here is like in the flow. And then we have the command, which is npx ngg Angular core v control flow path with relative file format and then interactive. Okay, let's try that. So I'm gonna go here, and instead of the magic that I was trying to do, let's say run task, and we have Angular migrate to new Angular flow. Let's see. Continue without scanning the task output. Let's go without continuing. Okay. This command is not available when running the Angular CLI outside a workspace. Interesting. Okay, then I have to change something. That is, I would have to run the NX Angular instead of that guy. So let's say, I think it's called, yeah, NX Angular core control flow. Let's see if this one works. Run task, Angular, continue. Okay, so it only works in Angular workspaces, but I do remember that I probably changed it somewhere. Okay, let's see one quick thing. I do remember like ng nx angular update, and here it says something like exactly next component. Okay, let's see if I can run this. outside of this. So if I run this path, and then we can give apps. Where's this one? PC web source app source app session component. Is it session? Wait a second. App session component.html, and then we have format interactive. I think this should have the same effect like Angular CLI outside a workspace, but this is a workspace. No. Maybe it's because of the version that I have. If I look at NestJS, I think we are still on 16 or 17. No, we are on 17, but maybe we're not up to date. That could be one of the things. Okay, anyways, let's have a look at, but this should be running the latest one. I think that should still be okay. Anyways, so let's look at session component and change this one to if session else, and then we go with this guy. 2 only is good. So we can render this guy, we can remove this guy, we can move all of this guy inside the if condition, and then we can get rid of the ng container. Okay, let's have a look. And I can remove this guy. Okay, cool. So then we can go here, refresh. Okay, still everything looks good. So now we can switch inside the form. So we should have a pulse meter, which I think still is something that uses a okay. Cool. Okay, so we need to look into this. So if we go here, we can say this is a section that basically has the questions. So questions section, and here we can do a for of question of session dot questions track question dot id, and here we can render these now. And then now it would have duplicated this. Yeah, we don't want that. So we have 4 questions. We need to render those questions. So here we can now say switch, and here we can switch based on the question dot type. Okay, I think it would be tricky to just see what kind of form we are able to create. That's going to be interesting. But in any case, we can say case, and now we have comment. I mean, I can hard code this, but I'm going to actually use the right type for this. So rating, and then case is signals. So these are the options that we have. So I'm gonna start with if it's just pulse, then we use pulse meter. Otherwise, if it's a comment, then I'm going to use that. So now we'll have at least 2 of those, which is still better, but not as good. We'll see why. But here we have pace and then comments. Okay, so first we render the pace, then we render anything else, and before it we should be rendering the rating. Now what we need to do is in the feedback form, this is what makes it a bit trickier, that the feedback form itself now has a bunch of things. I think the pulse meter has to also go in the form, which is gonna be again tricky. which means that the feedback form gets to decide what to render, not the session. Okay, so we get PulseChecker feedback form. I think this should accept questions. Right now it accepts rating configs. It should accept questions. So input questions equals, and this is going to be of type question from Prisma client array, and then this. We come back, and now we need to render based on that. So what I'm doing actually in session should be done inside the feedback form. So I'm going to actually move that from there and then move it inside here. Oh, this is going to be so interesting. So we come in with questions, and then we don't really have a feedback form here. We go with pulse meter whenever it comes for signals, and we also go with, I had something in my mind, now it's not there. Show real-time pulse, we don't need to do that. Pulse meter, we need to have that. We don't need to have this as well. Style.visibility, blah blah blah, don't need that. Okay, so this actually changes a lot of things, or we'll see. We'll keep it still similar. So we have ratings, which I'm gonna copy now, and we also have text area. So the text area, this one goes here in the comment section. This one, or this one, the section of ratings, this one goes inside the ratings one. I'm going to comment these out. This one goes inside this. Okay. We need to import the pulse meter component. So pulse meter component, so that this one becomes happy. And then we also have pulse data that we are passing. So we don't really pass anything at all. You can just leave it. Alrighty. Okay. So if we render this now, let's see what happens. Cool, nothing. So right now we are not really passing the questions inside from the session. So let's pass those, which is right here. So what I'm going to do is, instead of this, we're going to render the whole thing right here. And we're going to also pass in questions. Session dot questions. And let's see them now. Yay, there we go. Right now we have a pulse meter right here. Also, now I'm confused. There's one thing missing in the feedback form. Where does, oh, we don't really need the pulse meter, now that I realized. Pulse meter should not be here. And for signals, we actually need this, not the pace. And this is supposed to be this guy. So I'm gonna copy this, go here, paste this, which in here should have the question.label. And yeah, we also need more labels, but we'll see. So now here you can see it. Good pace, too slow, too fast. This looks still nice. The comments is here. I think the comment still should be down than the signal, so it looks like before. So the audience is like, no more surprises. So then this div, and then we have the comment. Okay, so move it up and down. Thank you. What happened? Is it big? Oh, because we are having this in a way that the comment, Oh, comes. Okay, so this obviously this doesn't matter then. It's moving them up and down. We'll fix that in a bit. Okay, then we also have the ratings. So the ratings should be in the form where we have the type is rating. We should have the array as well. Why don't we have that here? If I looked at the questions, there should be two questions of type rating, right? So this is the rating and this is the rating. But we are looping, because we are looping over. Aha, okay. But then we have form array named ratings, and then we are doing, okay. But then should we have a component that returns everything that is a rating? Or should we just render it with the I? Okay, let's do that. Mushmil, hey, how's it going? Is that Muzammil? And then we can also do it like this. So if we render the same thing right here. Oh, good to know. So this one then has to be okay, so this has to be the same thing then. So it's going to be rating input of ratings form array dot controls track index, and then you have form group rating input. So if we go here, we can actually say form group. I mean, now we can't really have form group and form control both. Okay. Where are you from, bro? I'm originally from Pakistan. Where are you from? And here you should have form group index. Isn't it rating input? Okay. So then that should be rating input instead. So I can then remove this guy. India. Where from in India? And then here I can simply say index and index. And we should be good. Okay, so let's see now. But the problem is we are talking about rating. Okay, so I'm thinking, because right now we need to show all the ratings thingy into one, or maybe not really. I mean, right now we still want to show them at the top. So we would have to then render this on top. I'm thinking actually. From Mumbai, awesome. I'm from Karachi. Okay, so when we start the rating config for each, it creates or updates the form group in this case. So then we should be just looking into, instead of this, then we should be looking into questions dot filter, and then we should have a question that is of type quest dot type equals question type dot, and this should basically get a rating. Can I import this please? Thank you. Okay, then we don't need the config ID in this case. So let's have a look. Okay, so Hmm. Ratings form a group. This one should not have a session rating ID. This should have just just the session ID. So this doesn't require it. So we have a label and the score, and that's pretty much it. But we should also have a, instead of this, we should have a question ID. When we create this, then we can basically get this guy for each, and this is still quest. So this should be question.id, question.label. Okay, I'm gonna fix that. भाई आपको हिंदी आती है? बिल्कुल मुझे हिंदी आती है, आपको तो आती होगी. I'm learning in Angular. Awesome. कुछ देर पहले इस स्ट्रीम पे we displayed two things. I'm not sure if you have seen that already or not, but I wrote a book. मैंने एक किताब लिखी है, एक्चुअली ना दो किताबें लिखी हैं, जिसमें से जो पहली किताब है वो है Angular Cookbook, दिस वन, ये 3 साल पुरानी है, और दूसरी किताब है ये Angular Cookbook सेकेंड एडिशन, और ये 1 महीना पुरानी भी नहीं है. तो दिस इज़ वेरी न्यू. तो इफ़ यू फाइंड ऑन Amazon Angular Cookbook सेकेंड एडिशन, यू कैन ईजिली फाइंड इट एंड यू कैन ऑर्डर इट फ्रॉम Amazon. तो अगर आपको Angular बहुत अच्छे से सीखनी है विद ऑल द कॉन्सेप्ट्स लाइक एनिमेशंस, परफॉर्मेंस, ये सारी चीज़ें अगर आपको देखनी है तो ऑर्डर इट. और इसके साथ आपको एक पूरा कोड बेस भी मिल जाता है जिसमें मल्टीपल प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, तो आप उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें लर्न कर रहे होगे. तो राइट नाउ आई एम वर्किंग ऑन Angular वर्जन 17. तो जितने भी प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं मेरे अब भी जो मैं रिसेंटली यूज़ कर रहा हूँ वो लेटेस्ट Angular 17 वर्जन पे काम कर रहे हैं. तो आई होप दैट आंसर्स द क्वेश्चन. Alright, so we got the question ID right here. Let's also see if I can find more things. So group controls, question ID, rating form group. This one should have question ID, question ID, question ID. Am I missing something? No. So then we just need to push form group session ID. Where does this session ID is coming from? Let's see, session ID. Okay, so here we should have question ID, and there's only one thing that is red right now, and that is this guy. So this guy says question.id is not assignable to type number. Why do we have this as a number? Okay, this should be string. Question ID should be string, and I think here also maybe I should, so here it should be string, and I don't think this can be null at all. I don't think this can be null. Should be a string, this should be a number. So then form group is not assignable to type blah blah blah. Okay, so when we actually created this, we should have said something like form control, but not nullable. I don't remember which one was that. Non-nullable form builder. This is the one that I had before. Maybe we can say non-nullable form builder. Okay, so we have this right here, right? So form control, we have the null, and then non-nullable true. So we start with this one. We say this one. It doesn't have that. So we start with null, and then the second one is non-nullable. Because these cannot be null at all. Why is it null? Okay, so let's see. Angular form control non-nullable. इंडिया में 15 वर्जन चलता है, इंडिया में 17 भी चलता है, 16 भी चलता है. आई वर्क विद मैनी पीपल जो बहुत सारी जो डिफरेंट उस पर काम कर रहे हैं, तो नॉट नेसेसरीली. के 15 ही चल रहा. It depends on which kind of companies you're working at and what are their priorities. So they might not be using the latest one, but that does not mean कि पूरे इंडिया में जो है वो सिर्फ 15 चल रहा है. But how do we use bubble sort? Good question. That's where I fail. So I don't have an answer for you at all. That's why I quit the interview. Easy peasy. Okay, so I think when we want to push a form group, does it also align? No, not nullable. I think when we are doing it right here, we'd have to push it as non-nullable. Yeah, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now that we have this, when we get the questions, we basically render those. Then we can render the rest of them. So I have to take I have to take out this guy from here, remove the rating, and basically render the ratings before this. So then we got ratings from array, control, blah blah blah. Let's see if this gets rendered now. Ooh, look at that. Super cool. What's the error? Let's have a look. Session ID, where is the session ID coming from? Not here. Not here. Then from where? Have I saved all the files? I think I have saved all the files. Session ID rating. Widget component. Ah, okay. So question ID. Question ID. But isn't it creator absurd? But that's the one, right? Okay, I can't. Okay, I will not have to change. I will. I will change it later on. Not in the moment. Okay, more places. Where are you? Session component, yes. Damn. This should be question ID. But this is inside the session. Ah, okay. That's not too bad. Does it fail here as well? I saw something red. Okay, compiled fine. Let's see. Did not work fine. Now it says cannot read property of undefined because it's trying to get rating configs index.maxval. I think that is because when we go to feedback component, we have the label and we have the score. So these are the forms. That makes sense. This one, when we get the control, here we say rating config. So this should be questions index dot configuration dot, and now this is where we failed last time. So Maxwell, because I need to find a good way to actually fix this later on. I mean, is this configuration? Yeah, it has it, but the Maxwell could be there, may not be there. So then I have to now have a I think I should just create a pipe that can return those values as well. I do have a pipe already, but that was for the response content. But I can also have a pipe for question configuration. So here we can say something like npx nxg pipe, and then we can say something like path equals, or I think it was directory rather. Directory is lib pcui source lib pipes, and here let's also give this the name. So here we can say question config, and here we can say question dash config. Let's create this pipe and then we'll fix the that should fix things. So here we have question config. I'm gonna actually copy this guy and come here and paste this right here. Let's transform all of this, and let's change this guy. So what we get here is actually a question. The type is supposed to be, I mean, I don't really need the type because I already get the type from there, I think, because I have the question. So here I should basically get configuration. So here we can say confi or, but the thing is, how would the pipe still work? And my camera just died, so I'm gonna change the battery. But the pipe, I don't know if the pipe would give us the right value to be honest, or we then should just return the value, to be honest. So how do we do this? We do have a let's call this question. Then what we want to have is we need to get the configuration, and we have this as prisma.json object. Now we need to say configuration dot or configuration now the configuration can be different, because if I go to Prisma, each question has a different value. So if I go to response question, so it can have a Maxwell or options, those two things. So if we say switch the question dot type, then we are just supposed to return the value. So here we can say question type dot multiple choice or checkbox. Then we have the content to return. I mean, even we don't need that, so we should rather just say return configuration dot options. What does it say? Return JSON value undefined is not type string, but it should just say JSON value or prisma.json object instead, I think. But we'll see. Okay, so the configuration is this one. Then we should also have if we have a different case where the question type is of even for signals, I think it's going to be option, but then we also have a rating. So in this case, if we look at the type from the interfaces that we have, let's see, not this one, but lib, PCUI, and interfaces. So the interfaces that we have right now should have question, comment, question, signal, question, rating, where we are also returning the types in this case. And then we are talking about both the options and the value. Okay, so then let's do this. So we do have in the case of this guy, we return the, because then we should not say question, we should rather say question with config. That's what we should be using then. So we can remove this guy, because then we'll get the right types of what transform returns. So now I can say return, and even this should then work. So configuration dot options. Does it not work? If it's a question with config, which has either question config, comment, signals, rating, or with options. If we go with rating, then we have type rating. But then we don't really need this guy. So then we can say question, configuration, and then dot options. You can see that works now. So return question, configuration dot Maxwell. So we return the value correctly in this case, but not all code return a value, or we return null. I think everything apart from the rating has. Why don't we then just use this? So let's move this guy a bit down, and then we can just use a default. Then we don't need this. Question.configuration and okay, so then we are talking about return question as question with options dot configuration dot options, because if it's not rating, then it's just question with options. Okay, so then this becomes a problem for us. If we use the pipe, then we are talking about having a number. So, and have we used to number somewhere? I think we did. So to number, I think we ended up not using it at all. Okay, anyways. So then we provide it a Maxwell, and then we return back a number. But there's a problem now. We would have to, the template cannot. Pratik, hey, how's it going? I'm working on PulseChecker, which is this app, and I'm in the way of migrating something. So I'm trying to get from this state to actually rendering the ratings, which I'm going to show you how it looks like. So for example, this one looks like this. So I'm migrating, so this was working already. Now it doesn't work. So I'm thinking if I should be creating some pipes, or is there a better way of using this, because we have multiple sort of types. Okay, let's create a pipe. I think that's fair enough. So instead of question config pipe, because this transform is still returns a number or something like that, and then when we'll provide it into the HTML, then it would be like, I don't really know. So instead of question config pipe, let's say we create a component. We, instead of saying this, we can say something like question, because the problem is Angular language service cannot really understand what the pipe returns in certain cases. If I try to provide a value that says this or that, because it's calculated on runtime, it doesn't have any idea of saying if I'm providing this value or this type, then it should be this versus that. So then I think, yeah, we can move forward. So question config, and then here we can say something like rating question config, and then here we can also say rating question config. Let's create this really quick. and then we can say nx angular pipe, and then it should just generate it. Cool. So then I can quickly go to rating question config, and then I can simply say that the value here is going to be a question, and then the type will be question with config, nothing, no arguments, and the value that I'm going to return back is going to be a number. So here I can just say question dot configuration dot, and now I can say a value. So here I can say that this question configuration as question rating dot configuration dot Maxwell. So we basically are returning the value, and this requires a question. So I'm gonna go to, first of all, let's delete this guy, we don't need it. Then we go to this guy, and then we say question dash, I think it's rating question config rating config pipe. Then we import this guy into feedback form component. So let's import rating config pipe, and then we have here, then we can just get the question of index, and then we pipe it with rating question config. Why does this not, or why does this cry? Type identifier question type is not assignable of type multiple choice, drop down, or checkboxes. Okay, so then let's go with question instead, then question with config. Okay, then then we should be able to render these. Let's see. No, still. Okay, so we have properties of undefined. Can I double check? We have question dot configuration, but this one is a comment. Why do we have a comment here? Because of the index. Okay. Let's see. So if we provide, okay, so let's see, if we're talking about initial questions, I think I'm doing it the wrong way. So when we use lib rating, we should be rather using the rating input dot controls dot and then score. No, the max value is supposed to be there. So then, okay, so then we also have to have, when we are creating, upserting the form group, I think we should also have a max val there as well. So let's say max val, it's going to be a string. Then we also provide, when we have the question, then we say quest dot configuration dot, and now we don't have it, so we have to say that the question is of type question rating, or we would have to define it right here as question rating configuration dot maxwell. Okay, and this is supposed to be, didn't I say that this is going to be, okay, so this is supposed to be a number. Okay, so then we provide the maxwell, and then we can bring it right from this. Instead of this, we can say rating input dot controls controls dot Maxwell. Where is Maxwell? Where's my Maxwell? So score, and then here Maxwell form control number, and this should also then set and this is creating or setting blah blah blah, and this should be either a question ID Maxwell. So here we should have also Maxwell rating Maxwell. This should be Maxwell as well. Okay, let's have a look now. Question configuration, prototype object. I forgot to save my HTML, of course, and this is supposed to be Maxwell. This says form control number value. There we go. Question dot configuration. Why does this still happen? So we have our whole session component. Now I have to fix all of those things as well. Okay, I'm gonna fix this one first and then the rest of them. So let's go back to session component, feedback form, sorry. And this one, let's make this a optional one for now. I'll fix it with the others as well. So now this one fails because we have, is it because we feedback form component, but we are now trying to say form group, which says what? Because it's undefined. Okay, let's go with 5 for now. Okay, so now we render all of it, but we also need to look into this guy. So we do have the question dot configuration. My bad. As this. Question as rating dot configuration dot Maxwell. Not happy? Okay, wait a second. But then when we are looking at this one, if we have reading forms array dot controls, I think all of them should have Maxwell, and that should continue. But then still we don't have that. Okay. That makes it tough. Okay, let's make this non-optional then. So then that becomes non-optional, but then I have to fix every other thing. Okay, let's revert this max dot value. Let's keep it. I think I would have to just review widget component. Let's say Maxwell 5 at the moment, or I could also have rating dot Maxwell as well, but I don't know. Do I have rating dot max? No. Config. No. Okay, so let's keep 5 here for now. Then we also have session component Maxwell 5, and then we have feedback form component, which should be okay, I think. So this one right now says feedback form component. Didn't I fix it? Uh, this is what I needed to do. Cannot read properties of undefined. That's bizarre. So if I save this, let's see first of all that everything compiles. Okay. So now if I look at, now if I go to my feedback form component, do this and render this as in JSON, what do I see? Controls dot value. Oh, that's the one. Okay. So then if I do a JSON to that, what do I get? This is a form control number. If I do a value, does that also cry? So this is exactly what I'm trying to pass right here. No? Why does this cry then? This doesn't make sense. It's the same thing as what I did up there. Maybe some of them don't have. Okay, let's have a look at, do I have the Angular DevTools? I should have the Angular DevTool. Yeah, I have it. So if I look at the Angular thingy, I think I have this disabled. Can't see it. Okay. Anyways. So we're having multiple issues at the moment. Let's see. Let's start with the first one. So this one says that this one does not have a value. Cannot read undefined reading label. So it's trying to read label. Okay. My bad. So then it's not talking about that one. It's talking about this guy. So this should be reading input dot controls dot label dot value. Okay, there you go. Oh, that took some time. That took a lot of time. Anyways, so now if I try to give an answer to these, then it should work. These should also work. Nice. I like it. Okay. So now that we have these, I think we can go into the Maxwell coming from the other places. Also, we're going to fix those as well, but one thing at a time. So this one, we say that we are creating a Maxwell from here. I think if we make this guy optional, then we can have a rating.maxwell over 5 right here. And then wherever we are using Maxwell, for example, we are using it in review widget component, I think we can remove it from here. So we're not touching it, right? This makes sense. Then this guy can also remove this. And yeah, I think then we should be good. And then save this guy. Compiled successfully. There we go. Okay, so now we have used the questions that we have instead of the rating config. So that's very, very, very good. I'm going to save this. And then once I have selected a pace, then I can submit this. But then if I also use this and then this, then I can also submit it. Okay, cool. So let's try, because if I submit it now, it's going to create a feedback and not responses. So what I need to do is, when I submit this feedback, I need to go into my backend and then create the responses accordingly. So feedback, we had a feedback DTO, but I think we should have a, yeah, I think even feedback is not gonna then use the feedback Prisma, but rather I'm thinking, should I bind the controller with the entity's name, or should I just go with responses? So when I say session, then I have response. I think we can go with response DTO. But I then also have things like responses for, let's go with feedback for now. So again, not changing a lot of things. If we needed to scale and move, we're gonna do that. But right now the priority is at least to migrate this and get things working. Okay, so create or update. When we submit our session's feedback, we basically hit the submit method, which is supposed to be here somewhere, submit feedback. So it gets the pace, comment, and ratings from the form. It then looks at the attendee feedback pace and the attendee feedback pace not equal to blah, blah, blah. All of that magic, but I think still we'll keep it as the same. But the attendee feedback that we are also receiving has to then accommodate all of that. I don't want all of that, to be honest. Damn. Okay, we'll see. We will see. There are two parts to this. One, what we are sending, and second, what we are receiving. So both of them have to be solved now. Okay. All right. Submit feedback. When we submit the feedback, it looks at all the things like paces, comment, and ratings. Then it goes to say this.feedbacks, it updates them already, and then it calls save feedback. When it goes to save feedback, it creates all the params, including the comment, the pace, and the ratings. Then it sends all of them to the server, and then it does a bunch of magic when it comes to success or failure of those. But I think we have everything that we need to send to the backend, apart from some things that we can remove before sending them. So when we use this save feedback call, I think the only thing that we need to strip out is the ratings having the Maxwell, or we don't even need those, to be honest, because we don't really get the form from there, but that's good. So Angular JS was this one, and the other one was I also need to check one more thing. So let's say if I create a new one with different ratings, add field, this one is going to be for no, let's call this different rating 5, and then different rating 10. Let's move this to 10 and then let's create the session. Okay, so in this one we should have, what's this question? Session copied. Let's open this one. Okay, so this one shows a different one. Okay, good. So we are good. So then what we need to do is, just when we are about to create, and this makes a call to API sessions, session ID, and then feedback. So that means I still go to not feedback but sessions, controller, session ID, and then we should go to feedback. This is where this is a get, this is a post, this is where we do save session feedback. So here we call create or update in the feedback service, this one. So here we do create or update, we get the create feedback DTO. We say comment is undefined, so then we don't do anything, or we update that. Then we also have the pace, so we do that as well, and then we basically upsert. Okay, then we do the upsert params, and then we also do the upserted feedback, and then we also do the feedback rating upsert as well. We do a lot of things. So what we need to do instead is, I'm just gonna take this guy, loop it over, and then what I'm gonna do is, the responses that we are sending for each particular session should also contain those information. So for example, create feedback DTO has feedback and then ratings. The feedback contains all this magic. I think we should just use a new call, to be honest, because this will get very confusing. And we should also change the UI a bit as well. So this, close, 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 close. Okay, so let's say we say nx npx nxg resource. What happened? Project PCBE, and here we can say nxg resource. Let's call this response project is going to be PCBE. So we use nx nest resource. It's going to be rest CRUD entry points, yes, at derived apps PCBE source app response.ts, yes. Alrighty, so we got this response right here. What we need to do is, we're gonna say that this response has a DTO. I'm thinking actually, I think we should, when we are providing a feedback of a session, we should rather say something like, I'm creating this session, but I also want to update all the questions. So here we can say something like session.response, but we'll create the services for those, of course. So let's say controller, which is gonna do a create response DTO. This should have essentially, I mean, we should not be then needing this at all, I think, because we can just say we are going to have a response to be created. So if we go to the service here, we should say the create response should be of type response from Prisma client, but not just response, but a creation. If I can get those, to be honest. Session rating payload, no. Sesh response payload. How can we say Prisma model create type? Aha, okay. Interesting. So then we should be saying something like response create response payload. Is that the one? If I say response payload, then this one should have question payload, attendee payload, but I'm actually interested in response create input. I don't think this one is shared. Hey, hi, how's it going? I don't think this one is exported anywhere. Oh, this is actually export response create input. Why doesn't it show then? Here it says doesn't have anyone that is exported as this one, but this one is inside Prisma client index Prisma response create input, but I do have that as exported. Maybe it's not as exported globally or under a namespace. Could that be? So this one is, for example, if I go here, response creates input is on the same level as everything else, or no? Okay, so we have Prisma dot response create input, Prisma, and here we can say Prisma dot response create input. Is that the one? Yeah. Okay, so that makes perfect sense. So then we can do innovate this dot Prisma or Prisma, or sorry, Prisma. What happened to the other controllers? Feedback service. Where's my Prisma? Yeah, that's what I was missing. Hey Zishan, how's it going? So then we can import Prisma service. Here we can say this dot Prisma dot create. Something is wrong. Feedback service. Prisma service from Prisma service. That does make sense. But am I missing anything else? Injectable. Prisma client, Prisma. You can also make it private, but then what are we doing with this Prisma? Dot response dot create. I was like, why does that not work? Zishan says, Assalamu alaikum, Ahsan bhaiya. It's very humble request that make you for some React JS logic building live project, please, please. Have you already checked the React apps that I have on YouTube? Have you seen any tutorial on React on my YouTube yet or not? Let me know in the chat. Then we can say create response video, and this should be async. So what we get from the create, then we can use that, or we can also use absurd. Create or update, but then we should be using absurd. But then we now would say create response video. But then we would have to omit it or update it in that case. Or we'll see. When we say update, we should also have one for update as well. Okay, or should we? And we would also have to have a where. Now, one session can have one response from one attendee. This was the same with feedback. So if I go to our Prisma model, look at feedback, the feedback had a constraint where the ID was session ID and attendee ID, which was essentially the constraint. But I don't think we have that in response, because response should have a constraint of there should be one response from one attendee for one question, if that makes sense. And we did not put it in response. But then we basically lose a lot of things, because then this can't be here, if that makes sense. So here then it becomes session ID, attendee ID, but then also the question ID. And this is the unique constraint. So each one attendee can only answer one single question, or one can give one single response to one single question. Does that have to be the case though? That is a question. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, we'll see. If we keep it like this, if we don't change anything, then that means that I can quickly see the response service, which is supposed to have create or update, which means that I'm gonna have a create response DDO, which is or create or update data. And here we can say is either that or Prisma dot update or response update input. Okay, now we say if this has an ID, then we return the update stuff. So await this dot Prisma dot response dot update where ID is create now dot ID. Why does it say type string update operation input is not assignable to what? What are you talking about? string or okay, then this should be called string. Property data is missing. Yeah, I know. Data is gonna be create or update data. So if I have the ID already, I just update it. If not, then I create it. And then I don't need all of this. I can just say data. And here I can say create or update data. Now this one is going to say that I don't understand. There are a lot of things that are happening. But this one should say prisma.create or response create input. And this should be fine. So if we have the ID, then that means we need to update it. Otherwise, we need to create it. That's the whole idea. Update response CTO, blah, blah, blah. We don't really want that. Why does this cry? Create does not exist on response service. Oh, we have this one. So in this case, when I think we can do the create one similar to this one. Create, and here we can say create response DTO, create response DTO, creates a response. Yeah, just putting it out there. So this should still be working, I think. Am I missing something? No. And create response DTO. This stays like this. We have response controller, which is using create response DTO. Yeah, okay. Is this crying because of NestJS or what? Prisma service at index 0 is available in response module context. Prisma, okay, because we don't have Prisma module here. Controllers should be using Prisma module. Now it should work. Oh, what? We should have Prisma module right here that we are importing from Prisma module. That should go same with this guy. Oh, imports. There we go. This should be fine. Just says with this request I have suggested almost 3 months ago, so need to bring something about React for logic building. I've already seen only one video about React just on Chrome extension, not enough. No, so that's not what I'm talking about. So you need to search for React videos already in the app. So for example, you should be able to see React signals tutorial. This one should help with the logic building part. You should also be seeing React testing, how to learn to build React with testing. You should also look into React Redux tutorial for beginners. This should also help. You should also look into threads. I don't know if I went with the NestJS. I'm not really sure if this was completely. No, this was not completed. No, so these are enough. Start with these ones. And in the meantime, as I get more time, then I can also look into the React one. Okay, cool. So we got this one. Okay, so this is working. So I think we just need to then say whenever we have our session, and this has to create a feedback, which should be right here. So create or update. So instead of this, we need to just send it the questions and update all of the responses. So create feedback DTO. Instead of this, we should have a create response or create responses DTO, but we would have to then submit multiple. I don't know. We have to submit one single feedback, which should respond to everything. So let's add it here. So create session feedback.dto.ts. So in this one, what are we expecting when we receive? So class create session feedback DTO. This should, if I look closely to the code, this should from the front end send us these things. Sorry, session component. So this is sending us session ID, pace, attendee ID, comments, and rating. These are the things. But what we should receive is a bit different, but we'll look into this. So session ID is going to be string. Pace should receive a question ID, string, and value, string. Then we should also have the comment should also have the same thing, question ID and value. Then we should have ratings. Where is this feedback? Okay. Then we should have ratings, which should also have the same thing. So let's say we have something like a type partial response, and we can say something like, because we don't, the only things that we need is, I mean, for each feedback, we should have attendee ID. It's going to be string. So we should have a question ID of type string, and then value string or number, I think. So this one, partial response, can be here, can be here, and then this can be here with saying that this is an array. And this should be a export class. So attendee ID, session ID, if I'm correct, the only things that the response should have is session ID, attendee ID, question ID. Everything else is a relation. And the content contains basically either the value of a string, blah, 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 blah. So right now, I think it is safe to say that I can have a feedback. Sorry. Right here, we had the create session feedback DTO. So this one. So that means that my session service should hear when they have this guy, ID feedback post, should use create session feedback DTO. Import this, pass this into feedback service, create or update. Now this one, we should use multiple of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, first of all, we need to create all the questions that we have gotten, and then we have to create the answers to those. So here we can say questions equals empty. And then here we can essentially say something like Dishan says, okay, I am and my friends are now waiting for more things about React.js in the upcoming days. So we will be live streaming back with React.js again. Hopefully, we will see. Prisma dot response. Oh, we should have response create input, and this should be responses. And here we should then have something like responses dot push dot push, and this should be, sorry, an array. And this one should then say that we have attendee ID. Shouldn't this have, this is confusing. If I have a response create input, this should this not have the content, but then the question responses input question. Okay, but then I understand. Okay, then I understand. Okay, so then this should be something like create. Oops, wait a second. So this should have a content. Content. And the content can have multiple things. So first of all, let's say we had value, I think, but let's also use attendee create. No. No. So response create input should say attendee. Question create nested one without response and responses input. I think connect is the one that we are looking at. So attendee connect ID, and then we should say create feedback DTO dot attendee ID. The content should have, I think, value as far as I remember, and that can be the create feedback DTO dot. First of all, we are talking about adding the comment. Attendee connect ID is missing the following property question session. Yeah. So we also have question connect ID. We create feedback DTO dot question ID. There's no question ID. Question ID should also be here. This should be question ID. And then we can also work on the same thing with session. There we go. So first of all, we are adding the save session feedback for responses.push. Then we can also go ahead and do responses.push, but then the second one that we are going to create. So this one, create comment. This one, we create paste, and then create ratings. So one of the things that we need to do is we got the feedback that is essentially just responses. Okay, got you. So then we can also do something like create feedback DTO dot ratings. What was that? Comment, paste, and then question. Okay, so then ratings dot map or we can also do for each we rating, and then we can do the same thing, responses.push rating dot value, which is going to be a number. And then we also need to have the attendee, which is the same thing. The rating also should it also have, wait, come back, rating, which is create session p. So rating also has question ID, but then we don't need the question ID there. So this one pace is actually a string. Then I can remove this. Comment is a string. Ratings are basically string. Oh no. No 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 no. Oh no. I understand now. No, these should be partial responses. Sorry. My bad. So the pace is a partial response because everything has a question, so we need to respect those questions. Okay. So this one has a comment, but this one should have the comment dot question ID. And then session should be session ID. That should be understood. Then we have the next one, responses.push pace is the value. And this should also be comment dot question ID, but comment dot value. And then here we have pace dot value. This should be pace dot question ID, session ID. Come on. Then we have this guy with rating dot value, rating dot question ID, session ID. Okay, I think this is good enough. And then what we can have is, once we have all of this ready, then we can just say running a loop over all of them and then just returning the data. So here we can say for a response of responses const. We can also, I think, say for await. Isn't it await? Is it not async? Oh, but this is a controller. Okay, no problem. But then we can just say something like return responses dot map, and then for each response just creating it. So return and here we need to import the other service. So we need to import here now the response service, private read only response service and then here we can then include it. So return this dot response service dot create or update, and then we can say response. Okay, so once we send this to create or update, I think this should work, but let's see. Now I have to have a module import as well here. So response module. And we also want to have throttle module in that as well. And then throttler guard as well when it comes to responses. We need to do the same thing as we did with feedback. So here we had feedback service and then the throttler guard and the throttler module. So let's do that right here. So in this one, we need to provide the throttler guard and the app guard. And then we also need to have a throttler module. So we are not really allowing anyone to spam our services. Okay, so let's go back to response. So in here, I think we are good. So when we have the response create input, I think then we should be good. Yeah. Create input or update input. So we could have, in this case, the ID. Okay, or we could not have it, but that's fine. All right, so I'm going to quickly try this out and then we'll see if this actually works or not. So we create a bunch of responses and then we take it from there. So in our front end, we need to ensure that our front end sends the information as we just saw it. So in this case, we need to say something like, save feedback with attendees and ratings. Now this has to change quite a lot. Okay, so I don't think we're going to be able to do this finalized today. We're going to have to continue from this when we get the chance. So this is not going to finish because I can see that the save feedback is going to come from here. And then we also have a bunch of things happening in this component. So it's not feasible at all to look into this today. So we're going to have to let it go. tsconfig base.json. Did I add something? Yes, I did. Okay, so I think I can add a comment, at least for the sake of committing. Create response DTO, update response DTO. I think we can remove the DTOs. We can also go, this is gonna start crying, of course. So we need to also delete these functions which use them, and this guy as well, and then also this guy and this guy as well. This should just become fine. Does it not? Update does not exist on response service. I know. Oh, because we also have these as well. Post, con, patch. Also, I think I would just move you away. And that. So this is good. All right. So tsconfig base, add that app module. We also created a response one. Let's also go to response controller, add that response controller, add that response module, that one, service spec. The actual service looks clean enough. Response entity, meh. Create feedback DTO. That's a good one. Let's remove that guy. What did we change really here? So create session feedback DTO. We imported that. And then we have a bunch of responses that we can look at. All right. Then we've got a session module. We updated that. Let's add both of them. Session service, question true, blah, blah, blah. Create session service. Let's add that one. Review widget. Yeah, I think we tried to fix that session rating ID into question ID, which right now is session rating ID. We'll fix that when the time comes. This, however, seems to work fine. So if I go to my app again, refresh, I can still see, I think. What happened? Nest can resolve feedback service. In which one? Session controller. Okay. Session controller feedback service. Why can't you solve that? Ah, the last one, response service. Come on. Did I not add to session module? Of course I did not. But I did. Response.module is here. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm gonna quickly change the camera. But we are about to end the stream as well. Okay, session module is a valid response module. Response module has throttler module from NestJS throttler and throttler card with app card NestJS course. Controllers, response service seems okay to me. Maybe one of the tests are not receiving the right one. Response service. I think it looks okay to me, but let's see. Maybe I messed something up that I can't see. Okay, npx nx reset. Okay, show me what you got. This one seems nice. Seems nice too. Pipes, we add one more. We did not really use this, but I'm going to keep it at the moment. No, it failed. Module containing response service. Is it because I also need to export that service? Is that so? I think yeah. So if I look at the feedback service module, oh yeah, you need to export the service as well. Duh. Okay. So module export. And then we also got response service. Now it should be fine. Give me 1 second. All right, so this seems to work. Let's see if this works now. Yeah, it does. Okay, so we don't have issues right here. So let's quickly add the rest of the stuff as well. Response module, and this is working. Git commit m, work in progress, create response on session feedback. So I have something actually to continue later on. But that's going to be it. So I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you everyone who joined us today. And thank you so much for your questions. I'm going to see you hopefully tomorrow.